Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today we're going to be talking about an item that just arrived today, and that is a rail for the AR-15 carrying handle. Let's get started. On eBay you can get two of these for $15, so you're less than $8 each. For reasons beyond my comprehension, maybe someone out there will know, it comes with two additional screws, and they're too short to be a replacement for this one. So if anyone knows what those are for, go ahead and tell me. Also, we have a very, very thin cardboard box and the rail itself. So the rail is made out of aluminum. It's relatively light, and we'll be confirming that here shortly. But you get 1, 2, 3, 4, just over 5 inches of slots on this rail, and that will allow you to mount whatever optic you want to on a AR-15 that may not have rail space for it. So let's consider something like this. This is a 10.5 inch Palmetto State Armory AR pistol, and it came with the we'll call it original M4 grip. It's a very oval shape, very thick boy. Originally was not a fan of it, mostly because I thought I was screwed in that I could not mount a light and I could not mount an optic or a red dot on the lack of rails. So I'm finding ways around that. But we currently have one of the flashlights from the a previous video, and we have a mounted optic on the carry handle. So this was essentially conceived as being a miniature M16 build. Carrying handle, it has the non-folding iron, so I knew that anything I put here was going to be obstructed by the iron sight, and or it was going to restrict the amount of space that I could put a flip up, or that was the cuckoo clock, everyone should have one, or static rear sight, and that would limit what type of optic I'd be able to have. It's a big sort of thing. So I do like the looks of it, but I was very limited in that this is already a smaller build, and I didn't have the real estate that I would have liked. All that to say, I now have the second one of these rails mounted. And basically what you'll do is you'll unthread this guy. You'll notice that there is a groove here, and I have it backwards. So this is actually going to go this way. That groove will line up and sit. I could get my fingernails in there so it's not completely flush, but it will engage an index on your rear carrying handle, give you 5 inches of rail that you could put whatever you want to. In this case, while I am putting a bunch of crap on here, I am trying to make this a relatively lighter weight build. I do have a bolt carrier group that will convert this into a 22 long rifle build, so this is going to be kind of set up for teaching people how to shoot. That's something I can do on my property, and if that's something you're capable of doing, I highly recommend you do it. It's impressive how CNN would tell you you're an evil, racist, bigoted, homophobic, blah, 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 blah for owning firearms, but yet when I talk to people at work about protecting their families and home defense and stuff like that, not a single one of them brought up that, and most of them said, wow, I've just been talking with the wife about maybe getting a firearm or a shotgun or something like that, home defense, maybe something to keep in the car. So a conversation is started. But anyways, to keep it relatively lightweight, I do want the option of being able to use irons as well as having something a little more sophisticated. So we have a relatively lightweight red dot sight, and the way it is set up currently, let me see if I can line that up. Bow. So I do have a red dot sight here that's going to sit above the irons, and bear with me here. I'm going to attempt, and I'll probably have to turn it this way, but the rail that I added actually has a pass-through that will allow me to see my front sight post. So this gives you the retained benefit of being able to use your irons and use the carrying handle, although it's a little less ergonomic. But I can absolutely still one-hand this pistol and carry it by the carrying handle while giving me a number of options as far as this rail goes. So even though I have half of this space taken up with this red dot, I can still add a 45-degree offset and put a laser or an additional flashlight or. So if you have a build that has the plastic handguard and you don't necessarily want to get an M-lock guard or, make it look a little newer, a little more modern by replacing that with a rail system that's crazy heavy, or an M-lock, like I said, or various other third-party manufacturers, this gives you the option of having whatever optic you want. Again, on this one, I'm going with a lower weight build, so I'm going with just a basic red dot. I can zero the irons at 50 yards, zero this for 100 yards, and now I have two different zeros just by raising my head a little bit higher. Something I assume would be functional. I guess we'll confirm later on this year. This is the beautiful thing about winter. You can't be shooting, but you can be purchasing ammo in bulk, and you can be buying accessories, getting them mounted, getting them all squared up, getting them ready for when there's not snow and ice falling from the sky, and you can actually do some shooting and annoy your neighbor in the process. That's a lot of fun. On this one, 10.5 inch, I'm going with just a red dot. I want this to be relatively small and compact. I do have a 20-inch upper that I'm building into like a A3 clone. And I intend on putting a 3x9 scope that I don't have on anything else on top of it. So I have the benefit of using the irons and using the scope if I want to. And all I have to do I did torque this on pretty good with a wrench. And we're going to leave it there. But gravity spike. As I said, were this here, all I'd have to do is loosen this guy up and pop this off. And now the weight, the tallness of this guy, all that can be removed and put into a pocket, something like that. If this is broken anyways, if it got dropped or the glass shattered or something, I can very quickly detach this and remove that weight and complexity from the build. I do say weight. Let me, I am going to go ahead and break this free, and we're going to put this on a science box, and we're going to follow it up with the red dot. All right, so just got that off. In the process of getting it off, I did notice that there are, let me count, 1, 2, there are 3 holes drilled into the knurled knob. So that allowed me to shove a Allen key or a thin screwdriver into that, and you'll get a lot more leverage to torque it into place. Good enough that I wasn't able to do it by hand. So it is nice that they do that, and it is on both of them. 1, 2, 3. And it's in a place where even if I, tighten this one to here, I can still engage on this one and rotate it. Now I can engage on that one. And they drilled it. It doesn't look like exactly in 120 degree angles, but it does allow you to use a tool to snug it up a little bit more. So just the rail with the knob, looking at 60 grams or just over 2 ounces with the addition of a red dot. I mean, that triples it, right? So it's not light per se, but what it does give me is the benefit of having some snap responses for pop-up targets kind of thing. So this is going to be a lot easier to show you. You have the window right here that you would be able to line up with your rear and front sights to still be able to look through. I will tell you, and this is probably a testament to the build quality, this window is free before it was obstructed. We're going to look at this one. You can see it's got less obstructions than this one originally did. Probably a good third of this was covered. So instead of it being like this, it would have been like that. It was so bad, basically I just got a stick and ramrodded it, knocked free the... I'm not going to say metal, I'm going to say paint. Pretty sure how that works. There is a hole right here. That hole is for the screw that holds this nut in place. And I'm pretty sure, since there's already a hole burrowed through here, that when they painted or finished this, some of that finish built up. Even if it was metal, it's ridiculously super duper thin. So basically all you would need is a pencil. And again, you can see that. Just ramrod it down a little bit. I think that's even captive. That is captive. So try from one side and then the other. And just by ramrodding it, you can see it's quite a bit clearer. So that is something you'll probably have to do. It's probably going to dork up a pencil, but pencil will still work. And just for the sake of argument, this can be threaded on backwards incorrectly. So you'll notice there is a collar on this side, a double step down. And this one has a bit of a bevel in the center. That bevel in the center is going to want to be facing down. And that's going to help it connect. So again, the rail itself is very sturdily built. I think it's 91 aluminum. Should hold up to the, again, as I always say, savage recoil that is the 5.56. Even on such a small and light build as that pistol, as well as the full-size 20-inch that I'll be putting the 3x9 scope on here. The only other thing I've noticed is... Allow me to seat this back on here, and I'll prove the point with this one. So again, it is keyed. This edge has to sit a certain way. You can tell that's at a very prominent angle versus this one. That's going to slot in much better. You'll pull this away, gives you enough space to put that retaining nut. Spins and holds pretty easily. The only thing I see is there is, and I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, especially with this lighting. There is the least littlest amount of wobble. Now, that's another reason why I'm choosing a red dot, because it's a non-magnified optic. So that little amount of wiggle is honestly not going to be noticed, especially if I'm not doing full auto, which I can neither afford nor want to do the paperwork and put myself on a government list. So this may move with each subsequent shot, but it's probably going to return to 0. I suppose something you could do... Man, that holds pretty snug. Something you could do is very simply put a strip of electrical tape around the part with the largest shelf here. And as you squeeze this and compress it into place, that electrical tape is going to deform and shim and take up the slop in there. So it is nice that, you know, within 3, 5, 10 seconds, you're able to just zip off whatever optic you have, make it lighter, less likely to snag, stuff like that. There are 2 holes mounted here. I'm not sure what those are for. You'll recall I started this with 2 screws. those screws, one, can't engage anything. There's no threading or anything underneath them. And second, even if it did, it would block the window. So I'm not really sure what those are for. Again, if anyone has experience or insights, I and anyone watching this video would be interested in reading about them in the comments section below. The other thing, what was the other thing? Let me put this one back on. So back to the wobble. Wobble. Usually I would want this red dot as far forward as I can get it. The benefit there is you're not blinding yourself with the frame of this red dot around the window. So I will show you that, because if that barely made sense to me, I'm sure that didn't make sense to you guys. So if I'm like this, you'll notice that while I may be able to see out this window, I got this giant lug right here, and I have this rather thick frame all the way around. So it's kind of like looking out a very tight windshield in a car. My A column and B columns are going to be in the way. It kind of... I can see where I'm going, but man, do I feel like I'm looking through a tank gunner's sight, right? So the difference there would be, and I guess the only way I could... let's do this then. We're going to take it off here. Wow. All right. So if I'm looking here at the red dot, I can see my target, and I can see pretty well inside the window, but now I'm losing situational awareness all around here. You can't even see that my fingers are tracing there, right? Versus if I have it further away from me, the shooter, I can see a lot more peripherally what I'm, situational awareness. Is someone coming around that corner? Is the deer coming out from behind that tree, kind of thing? If I'm here, I'm very much, consider how much of this frame is being blocked. 10%, 15, versus this at 3, right? So I'm going to have a much better idea of what's going on around me. And then the window is more confirming if I'm on target, not if it is my target, right? So I can track the deer moving out here, know where it is, line up the shot and take it, versus being blind like this and getting admittedly a marginal increase in the viewing window, but also getting kind of tunnel vision with in regards to what's going on in the situation I may or may not have found myself in. The other consideration there, as I was saying, I would have and did have it so far forward this front optic was actually hanging over, and that gives it a very nice hook for branches and stuff to get stuck on. So now I'm kind of sacrificing the rail, acting as a safeguard to protect that optic from getting smashed, dirty, branches getting clogged on it, blah, blah, blah. I'm also shifting that weight. Again, we're talking 6 ounces. That's half a pound. That's not a small amount. I'm shifting that weight more rearward, which is making the firearm balance a little bit better. It's not so much how much it weighs, it's what the balance is. If it weighs 6 pounds, but the 6 pounds is all the way out here, you're going to be fighting to hold that rifle up for any period of time, and it's probably going to be swaying as you're trying to line up a shot, versus if that weight is too far rearward, your recoil is going to be bouncing more. So you kind of want that weight dead center. And if I hold it by the where the barrel meets the receiver, it's a little rearward biased. Not by much. If the center of balance would probably be like right here. And that is affected by moving this. Ask me how I know. That's one of the reasons I did it. The other reason is, as I said, this has just the littlest amount of wibble wobble. That wibble wobble, if the pivot point is here, and I have my optic all the way out here, that wibble wobble is going to be much more pronounced. Versus if that wibble wobble is right on the, what would that be? Fulcrum, that's it. the dead center of the teeter-totter, it's going to experience less of the wibble wobble. Man, that's definitely an industry science term. Don't look it up. So you'll notice the middle of the mount of that red dot is in line with that mounting point. So even if there is some wibble wobble, which again I'm going to shim up with a little bit of electrical tape, it's going to be mitigated as far as the effects on my optics by putting it directly in line. So those are some considerations for you. I do overthink things, but by telling you about it, now you don't have to think about it at all. So far, I'm really liking it. Of course, I literally just got it an hour ago and just mounted it and thought that I would share with you guys. So it is going to add a little bit of height to your rifle. Zeroing it's going to be a little bit difficult because you have we're talking a 3.5 inch sight over bore sight picture, but it does help you get some snapshots in, and it gives you the benefit of keeping a rear sight carrying handle set up if that's something you're interested in, while allowing you to mount optics if that's something you're interested in. So as always, this is outside the target demographic. I appreciate you guys coming by. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below. Any experience with these? And again, if you can educate me on what these spare lengthened screws are for, I'd be interested in hearing from you. And that's all we have for today. So I will catch you guys in the next video.